And so this journey that we're going to begin to move on is saying, let's forget these facts. Let's stop watching with our eyes, because this Genesis 2 journey began with man being able to do any and everything. Nothing was impossible for man not to do. Not sickness, nor death, no disease. He could live for how long? There were no what? Constraints. Let's talk about constraints for a moment. Pastor?
No.
Man of God? Who hold your hand out. Please stand. Oh, and let's bless with flying dollars too, please. Our brother here. Hold your hand out, please. What's the constraint?
My hands. Or gravity.
Okay. No, gravity is not.
Okay.
Gravity is a constraint.
Right.
It certainly is. Move your hand, please. What's the constraint?
The floor.
So, could you help us here? Because Coach is 72 and I conserve energy. So you're telling me that if there were no constraints, I want y'all to hear it for a moment. Please, let's step away so we don't block anyone. Now, I want you to hear, don't go to sleep so that we remain unconscious, incompetent. So you're telling me that without constraints, this bottle could fall infinitely.
Exactly.
So what keeps this bottle from falling infinitely is a constraint.
Right.
The Bible calls constraint sin.
Mm-hmm.
So in Genesis 2, their man was free of what?
Sin.
Therefore he had no
Constraints.
and therefore he could live infinitely.
Exactly.
So sin somehow becomes a constraint.
Exactly.
And so in Genesis 3, man faced what? The enemy, or the spirit of evil, or not so good, or the devil, the demon, whatever we would call him or it. And so he met a constraint. But he didn't have to yield to this constraint, but he did.
Right.
But how did he trick him to become constrained away from his blessing?
Through his eyes, his desires.
Through a spirit of comparison.
Okay.
Did you hear what I said? Yeah. Through a spirit of what?
Comparison.
Do you remember? Who can tell me what this spirit of comparison was? I know you know, Dave. We've talked about it before. What was this spirit of comparison? Could be what? Like.
Like God.
Like.
Like God.
Say it again. Like.
Like God.
Like.
Like God.
So you mean within me I'm not good enough? That
Right.
I could be like something that I'm not?
That's what he told him. He was not.
You mean I am not all complete? There's something more complete that I could become? I'm lacking something.
Right.
And that spirit of lacking something is called the spirit of comparison that leads to what? Inferiority and insecurity? Are y'all hearing me for a moment? Let me just finish the point, come right to you. So I'm not being all that I can be. My constraint is what? I'm insecure?
Insecure.
Because why? You might compare me and I don't measure up
Exactly.
to someone or something else.
Exactly.
And that caused me not to. Well, that's another constraint.
Right.
That keeps me from being all that I can be. Because I don't want to feel what?
Left out.
Or insecure.
Insecure.
And inferior.
Exactly. Different.
And so when I said, are there any questions? And there were questions and people didn't raise their hand because you didn't want to feel what?
Inferior.
I don't want to feel what? Insecure.
Insecure.
How many people have not lived up to the fullness of their intended purpose because they didn't want to be inferior, insecure. I'm sick of feeling insecure. I won't try because I don't want to be laughed at anymore. I don't want to be bullied anymore. So therefore, I'm just going to be average and just float and hold on like everybody else. Are y'all there with me?
Yeah.
So that seems to be, in Genesis 3, our weakest constraint, isn't it? That we're afraid to be who we are. Afraid to fear of what? Failure to be what? To be what? To be different. Afraid not to be who? Who I am. Who, as God made me to be. So if I keep looking on the outside with my eyes, I'm looking at what? If you stand up and lift your hands, what will I do? Because I don't want to be what?
Different.
If difference makes me feel
Insecure.
So now I won't know what God wants for me. I'll only know what you want for me. And we teach this as socialization. It begins in school. And we'll close with this so I make my point. Finish this with me. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X,
Y and Z.
Now I know my ABCs. Tell me what you think of me. And so it's no longer what God thinks of me. I now live my life, but am I okay? Am I good enough? Magazine, do I look the way everybody is looking? Do I drive the car everybody should drive? Am I okay? Am I too tall? Am I too thin? Am I too dark? Am I too light? And if I'm not good enough, it makes me feel insecure and inferior. How many begin to hear what I'm saying? And so this journey is about our weakest constraint. Is that God doesn't want you to be like somebody else wants you to be. He wants you to be just like He created you to be. And our journey is to help you find your way back to you. Because you tried to be like somebody else wanted you to be, and then they left you. And when they left you, it made you feel even more insecure. Because I can't be enough for. But God didn't create you to be enough for somebody else. He created you to be what He wanted you to be. And so the answer, with a long answer to a short question, why do we close our eyes? We're going to go back to finding that place, closing the door, that we can now begin to practice being who God wants us to be.